This is not just a story, it is a lesson woven from indigo and fire, a lesson about the voice that must rise when the strongest voices have failed. Our story begins in the bright heart of Eko-Afé, a village nestled where the whispering savannah greets the heavy, ancient silence of the Oko-Igbo forest. And in that sun-drenched place lived Elisa. Elisa was the only daughter of Chief Caleb, a man whose wisdom was as broad as the branches of the great Iroko tree in the village square. But Elisa's beauty, her beauty was the kind that made the sun pause on the horizon just to catch her silhouette. Her skin was dark like polished mahogany, her eyes deep and soulful, holding the whole lineage of her ancestors. Yet her true fire, her true destiny, lay in her hands. She was the village's master of Oduye weaving and dyeing. For Elisa, the craft was not just a chore, it was a form of sacred, silent language. She knew the language of the dye bath, the poetry of the caustic soda, and the rhythm of the starch resist. Her masterpieces were not meant to be sold, but to be read. They were the living histories, the prophecies, the very memory of Eko-Afé made visible. Her greatest teacher had been her late grandmother, Iya-Ayo, the revered elder weaver. Iya-Ayo's hands were old and gnarled, but they once held the secrets of the earth. "Listen, child," she would tell young Elisa, her voice dry as parchment but steady as bedrock. "The wisdom of the men is the spear that protects the village walls, but the wisdom of the women, the weaver's song, is the thread that holds the walls together. Never let them tell you your art is only decoration. It is knowledge, and knowledge, Elisa, is the greatest power." But in Eko-Afé, tradition was heavy. The chief's council, men of authority and long beards, led by the perpetually skeptical Baba Segun, held the power. Baba Segun was a man who believed only in the sweat of the brow, the strength of the hoe, and the volume of a man's voice in the council. He respected Elisa's beauty and her future as a chief's wife, but he scoffed at her knowledge. To him, the Adaya dye pot was just woman's play. The trouble began, children, not with a sudden crash, but with a slow, agonizing creep, the silence of the river. The rains were late, then they became spiteful. The sun was a merciless eye in the sky. It beat down on the mud brick huts until they baked like ovens. The earth cracked open, turning the paths of Eko-Afé into a network of gaping mouths. And the magnificent Oya River, the lifeblood of the land, the singer of the nights, began to shrink. It drew back from its banks, showing smooth stones once hidden, then exposing dark, slimy mud. Soon the river was nothing but a cruel, dried-out scar across the land. The people cried to the gods, to the ancestors, to the winds, but the heavens were silent. Chief Caleb called the elders. Their council fire burned dimly, as if it too were thirsty. Voices rose. "We must ration the maize." "No!" "We must hunt to the north." "The gods are angry. We must offer a sacrifice to the river spirit." Elisa sat in the shadows, silent, her mind turning. Her grandmother's voice came like a memory carried by wind. Open quote, "When the rivers die, listen to the cloth, child. The pattern will tell you what the eyes cannot see." Close quote. That night, Elisa could not sleep. She went to her weaving hut and sat by the indigo pot, now dry and cracked. She traced the patterns on her last cloth, the weaver's knot, a design her grandmother had left unfinished. And as she stared at it, something inside her stirred. "The forest," she whispered. "The forest holds what the river has lost." At dawn, she went to the council. "Father, elders," she said, "my grandmother once spoke of a hidden spring deep in the Oko-Igbo forest. If I can find it, perhaps we can bring life back to Oya." Baba Segun laughed. "A hidden spring? You would chase stories while men die of thirst." Her father's face was heavy. "Elisa, your heart is brave, but this is no time for myths." But Elisa's spirit was strong. That very night, while the village slept, she packed her raffia, her dye, and her grandmother's old tapestry. Under the cold eye of the moon, she entered the forest. For 3 days she walked, guided by instinct and memory. The forest was thick with silence and shadow. Her feet bled, her lips cracked, but she pressed on, whispering her grandmother's words like a prayer. Open quote, "The thread must meet the water must meet the sky." Close quote. At the end of the 3rd day, she reached a clearing. In its center stood an ancient baobab, its roots twisting like the arms of sleeping giants. Beneath it sat a massive rock, carved by time into the shape of a guardian spirit. In its chest was a hollow, the shape of the weaver's knot. Elisa took her grandmother's tapestry and placed it against the hollow. She closed her eyes and began to hum the weaver's song, the one passed down through generations. The wind rose, the earth trembled, the hollow began to glow faintly. The rocks split open with a deep groan, and from within it water gushed forth, clear, cold, and alive. Elisa laughed through her tears. She cupped her hands and drank. The water tasted like life itself. She filled her calabash, then began her journey home, tying strips of her cloth along the trees to mark her path. When she reached Eko-Afé, she was weak, her clothes torn, her skin streaked with indigo and dust. The people gathered around her. Baba Sagun's mouth fell open. Chief Caleb ran to her side. "Father," she whispered, "I found the spring." She poured the water onto the dry ground. The earth sighed. The dust darkened, and from it green shoots began to rise. The people fell to their knees, weeping. Elisa led them along her trail into the forest, through the cloth-marked trees, until they reached the spring. They drank, bathed, and filled their pots. The drought ended. From that day, everything changed in Eko-Afé. The council made a place for women's wisdom beside men's strength. The Adira cloth became sacred, the keeper of the village's memory. And Elisa, the weaver who found the water, became a legend. During each rain festival, the people would sing, open quote, "The weaver's song brought water, the daughter's hands brought life, the hidden spring remembers Elisa," close quote. Ah, my children, that is the tale of Elisa the Weaver, a tale of drought and destiny. Remember this. Sometimes salvation does not come from the loudest drum or the strongest hand. It comes from the quiet pattern of a heart that dares to believe.